Good evening. Good evening and welcome to Midnight's Tour of Japan 2026. It is great to be with you here in Okinawa. A big hello to our friends joining us on the live stream too. We have got a fantastic lineup of speakers for you this evening. But before we get started, we have some items of housekeeping to attend to. The bathrooms are at the back of the room on the left-hand side. There is no scheduled fire alarm, so if the alarm does sound, please follow the instructions of the venue staff. You will notice that we have photographers capturing today's event. You can access these photos via this QR code and those dotted around the room via the Memento app. And then lastly, as Taichi has already told us, we are offering translations today. So if you need translation, please scan this QR code. You can get headsets from around the room. Guys, there's some seats up the front here. Don't be shy. Get in here, you can fill them up. Okay, that's everything, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce my good friend Kyle Solomon to the stage.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kyle, and today I want to introduce Hydra Events. Hydra Events is a game we're running during the Midnight Japan Tour, and you can play, you can learn, and you can win real prizes. So what is Hydra Events? Hydra Events is a live event tech and attendee gamification experience. It's built on Cardano and Hydra. It's designed to increase the value that attendees receive from participating in venues and events such as the meetup we're attending tonight. Today, Hydra Events tracks your activity and interactions in real time. It uses Cardano and it guarantees the integrity of the interactions to our clients. In the future, we'll add privacy features powered by Midnight. This means private actions, private rewards, and selective disclosure of information and statistics. There are 4 ways to play. So we've got an app, and within that app, there are 3 different tracks. One's a community track for learning, one's a developer track for builders, and then there's a social track for meeting people and interacting with the Midnight community. And then each city has its own individual city-based activities, and you can view those all within the app. You can choose one track, or you can try all 3. To start playing, it's very simple. First, what you guys want to do is go ahead and scan this QR code now. And then as you do that, you'll be prompted to choose a social login provider. And as you do that, a Hydra wallet will be automatically created on your device for you. And then after that, you can start to view all the activities available for you. So as you complete tasks, you'll earn points, and then you can redeem these points for tokens, which you can then go and spend in our gotcha machine over here and claim a secret prize. And the prizes are pretty cool. So we've got all kinds of things from like stickers to, Ledger wallets. There's some shower speakers over there. We've got AirPods and even iPads. So to earn the most chances to play, we've got a ZK scavenger hunt game we've designed today. Now, this game is designed kind of from a high level to give you guys an understanding of how Midnight could work. And so what you guys want to do to earn points is you want to listen to talks, you want to talk to the teams, and you want to meet your Midnight ambassadors. And what you guys are trying to do is you're trying to discover secret words. There are 10 secret words to discover, but you only need 5 to win, or to complete the scavenger hunt, if you will. And so what you do is you submit 5 words or proof of those 5 words. And that kind of demonstrates how Midnight works, because you're not displaying what those words are. You're never revealing to us what those words are. We're calculating a ZK proof, and that proof is being sent, and that's what's being validated. So to further kind of elaborate on that, we're going to give you your first secret word of the evening. To get other secret words or discover them, you're going to engage with your Midnight ambassadors. I think our friend Mr. Charles is hiding one too as well. talk around and engage the teams. But your first word is here, and that word is learna. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce a man who needs no introduction, a man whose vision has brought so many people together in pursuit of a higher purpose, the CEO and founder of Input Output, Charles Hoskinson.
Hello, Okinawa. It's so good to be here. You know, when we originally talked about Cardano many, many years ago in Japan, we did a tour. We went to Hokkaido all the way to Fukuoka. We were supposed to go to Okinawa, but we had to clip the tour. So I was supposed to be here in 2016, and I always regretted not coming. And when we planned out the next tour, I said, you know, we kind of owe it to Okinawa. We have to come. I'm also from an island. I was born on the island of Maui in Hawaii. So I have a great affinity for being here in the Pacific. A lot of the plants I actually recognize and I grew up with. So it's awesome to be here. It's awesome to see this place. And it's a nice blending of cultures. And certainly it's a lot warmer than it was in Hokkaido. When I was up there just a little earlier, we had about 2 meters worth of snow. So we're on tour and we're talking about my favorite thing in the whole world, which is Cardano and the Cardano ecosystem. And it's been 10 years. And what's really incredible is that we've grown from nothing to a very large ecosystem. There's more than 100 countries represented with Cardano at the moment. We saw that with the Constitutional Convention when we walked in and ratified the Constitution of Cardano, and there were flags from 50 countries represented. Japan even had a delegation. Everybody had a delegation. So the ecosystem has grown tremendously, and now there's many groups of people and many leaders. So the first goal we had when we set up this tour was to bring some of the people from within the Cardano ecosystem, from across the ecosystem, many different countries here, and have them give an update on the things that they're working on and talk about the health of the ecosystem, because we've been around for a while. So Hydra Events, Kyle, Adam, and Sam's company, that is a phenomenal example of the physicalization of Cardano. So what they're working on is technology to connect the Cardano network to vending machines, ATMs, point-of-sale systems, anything in the physical world. So that technology you're looking at, we've taken to Singapore, we've taken to Argentina, we've taken it all around, and we've actually been able to power a real-life vending machine, and you can tap your phone and it vends things out. So it's really cool to be able to connect the technology, and if you participate, you can actually see how it works, and we're really proud of that. Then there's other initiatives that are going on. For example, we have the decentralization of Cardano's development. In the beginning, there was just me. There was me and friends, and then me and friends in my company. But now there's dozens of companies, development companies, engineers working on Cardano throughout the world. And so some of those engineers are here tonight. So you see a lovely presentation from Chief Operating Officer of Blink Labs talk about node diversity. So how do other people who aren't my company participate in write code and build up the ecosystem? It's very necessary for decentralization, and it's very necessary so that more people can use the system, because other people from different places, they have different ideas. And they write things different ways for different customers. And so it's important that they work together. Then you'll see a presentation tonight about Intersect, which is a members-based organization, and that's the great decentralizer of the community. So there's this question of how do you have influence over the roadmap, the technical steering, the direction and philosophy of the protocol? You can certainly vote, there's DREPs, there's all kinds of things you can do, but the point of a members-based organization, which you can join for free, is basically it's a not-for-profit, and you can express yourself. You can sit on steering committees. You can argue over protocol parameters. You can talk about the roadmap and the vision. And you say, you know, I think we need to invest more money in Okinawa from the Cardano Treasury. That's the place you have the conversation. Takes your time, not your money. That's the purpose of that organization. And what's really fun is Cardano has an on-chain treasury. You know, there's almost $1 billion worth of ADA sitting in the on-chain treasury. And every year we get to vote as an ecosystem of where do we spend that money. What do we spend that money on? So there's representatives here tonight from Intersect, and they're going to provide a explanation of what Intersect is, what they're working on, the things that they're doing. But I wanted to come, and I want to come just because I love Japan, and I love all of you. But I also wanted to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, the newest project that we're working on. And it's the answer to a very simple question, which is hard to answer, but it's simple to ask, which is, why hasn't the revolution happened? Why haven't we won? Why has crypto not taken over the world? So why isn't crypto mainstream? Simple question, hard to ask. So every company, Sony, Toyota, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, it doesn't matter the industry, it could be Maersk, the shipment company, it can be manufacturing giants like Samsung, it doesn't particularly matter. They've all, over the last 15 years, set up blockchain research and development groups. And they've done pilots. So if you go to Google or your favorite search engine, you can search and see the news. And each of these, you'll see these amazing pilot announcements. We are going to use blockchain. We are going to use Ethereum. We're going to use Cardano. We're going to use this thing. And the pilot runs for a while, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then it concludes. And then you're waiting, like, okay, so you've done the pilot, so this must mean that all of Microsoft is going to run on a blockchain, or all of Toyota is finally going to be on a blockchain. Which one did you pick? And they say, well, we're not going to migrate. You ask them, why? Why are you not mainstreaming? Why is it that all the payments aren't in the cryptocurrency space? Why isn't it all the money is not in the space? Why are the governments not running on blockchain technology? And the reason being is that there's this bifurcation in the technology. It's pretty easy to break down. You have public. That's where the industry is at. This is what the industry does. In the public, you have these beautiful transparent ledgers. That's the blockchain. Everything you put on it, everybody can see it. Doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, XRP. If it's in the ledger, everyone can see it. That's the rule. 2, it's auditable. Not only can they see it, there's some logic, if it's a real blockchain, that once it goes in there, you can check it and you can verify, is that real, is it not real? That's very powerful. And it's immutable. Okay, so when you put stuff inside there, you can't take it out. You can't roll it back. Humanity actually has never had a global system that has this capability. If you study history, and the older I get, the more I like history, I'm becoming history. Happens to us all. Belly grows too. So if you study history, what's the first thing the conqueror does when they take over the country? They take all the records from the palace or the temple, and they burn them. And they say, okay, well, there's no ledger anymore, so we're just going to say who owns the land, and who's special, and who's rich, and who's poor. So this is special because it's a very, very special kind of data storage. It means that no matter who's in charge, there's one version of truth in history. So it's a big innovation, and it really matters. But when you ask the question, why has crypto not reached mainstream? This is only half of what you need. All business, all life, all individuals, all governments, while they have a public side, they also have a private side. Okay? You need the ability to decide and selectively disclose things to people. So maybe your wife knows how much you make, but not the general public. Maybe your professor knows you got the C on the test, but not the general public. If you're a nation state, you will know how many planes you have and your nuclear arsenal and where the ammunition is stored and all these things, but not the enemies. China doesn't get to know. Pretty simple. You have a public side and you have a private side. It's almost axiomatic. It just feels so not natural. The problem is that blockchains can't keep a secret. if you put something in a transparent ledger, everyone can see it. So if you buy something using a blockchain technology in your Toyota, Honda gets to see that. And Nissan gets to see that. And Ford gets to see that. GM gets to see that. So when they do these pilots, what ends up happening is they go until it doesn't work. And they say, we need to add a privacy-preserving system. They say, well, it's not supported in the blockchain. Well, then we have to build one. And when they build one, you know what? It's centralized. They have to run it, which means the entire system collapses to a single thing. It's no longer a blockchain. It doesn't work anymore. It's just Toyota plus. And so they said, what's the point? I said, I guess there isn't one. So we asked the question, is it possible to get all these properties of the blockchain space in some way, but have privacy with the system, with the selective disclosure system? And about 6 years ago, we kicked off a program for this called Midnight. It didn't start as a blockchain, and it didn't start as a token or anything like that. It actually just started much more fundamental, an analysis of privacy, an understanding of how privacy works and for who. And we built this whole family of amazing technologies. And as we were building them, we said, well, how do we bring this to everyone? Because is privacy just a Cardano thing? Or does Bitcoin need it? Is it just a Bitcoin thing and Cardano thing? Or does Ethereum need it? And is it a crypto thing? Or is it a universal? Like everyone everywhere in the world kind of needs this capability. And we said, well, everyone needs that. So it wasn't good enough just to design a system which has some privacy stuff, but we needed to design a system that would have privacy stuff for every system in the world, which is a tremendously complex thing. So then we thought a lot about what do we do here, and we said, well, why don't we think in terms of triangles? I studied math years ago. I wasn't very good at it, but you know what? I do like shapes. And I said, well, really, when you talk about privacy, you talk about this paradigm, you're actually talking about three things at the same time. And if you do these three things, you build something that's useful for billions of people. You can start the revolution. Okay, so 6 years ago, we started here. Privacy-enhancing technologies, zero-knowledge technology. Oh, no. And then we said, wait a minute, this is a whole ecosystem. Privacy is not a singular thing. So you'll have all these people mostly living on the internet, and I doubt that they take showers, and they go to places called Reddit, and they go to places called Twitter, now X, and they say, oh, well, my privacy thing is better than your thing. Monero is great. Zcash is great. My privacy thing is so wonderful, and your thing sucks. We have privacy. Like it's a light switch or something. It's like either you have it or you don't have it. Privacy is like a blanket or waterproofing. You spend all this time, you waterproof your roof. And then the rainstorm comes. And you notice your wall, and there's like a little bit of leaking. And you say, God damn it, I spent 2 days on this thing, and why is it leaking? Privacy is like water. It finds the cracks. It finds the holes. So you can make a transaction private. But what if the network is not private? Then the internet service provider can see it. You could have a VPN and you could have a private transaction, but what if the phone is compromised? Then whoever compromised the phone, or Google or Apple, can see it. Well, you can harden the phone and secure the phone, but what if the hardware inside the phone has a backdoor that a nation state's put in, like China with Huawei? Well, then they can read everything that's there. That's why water is such a powerful analogy, because privacy has to be the waterproofing, and it's very hard in practice to do that. So the first thing that we realized when we explored building Midnight was that it wasn't sufficient just to build one privacy thing. You had to think of privacy as a collection of things. And we asked a fundamental question, can we build some universal capabilities to basically make this more modular? And then over time, you could have an entire privacy framework. So for whatever you're doing, you can waterproof the roof. So when you're Toyota, you say, well, hang on, I have a supply chain, and I make tires, and we make engines, and all these things. There's hundreds of companies that have to work together to make one Prius. There's hundreds of companies that work together to make one Lexus, and some of which they control and have influence over, and some of which they don't control and have influence over. Some which are in Japan under Japanese law, some are in China, certainly don't follow Japanese law, or Korea, or America. Yet they all have to play by the same set of rules, and they all have to agree to the same disclosure regime. And if they don't, well, then you have corporate espionage. Somebody steals the design and they put it in their own car. We see this all the time in business. So you have to define your blanket, and there's a collection of techniques and tools. So with Midnight, the first thing we wanted to do was make it work for everybody, but then also look at privacy in its holistic sense and get a sense of how waterproof are you. Like when you buy a watch, your Seiko, it says we're waterproof up to 10 meters or 30 meters. So similar, you're private up to a certain depth, a certain type of actor. You're private to an individual. You're private to your club. You're private to this local police or whatever. You're private to a nation state, but a small one, not America or China or Japan. So that's the first pillar of Midnight, is to think of privacy in a holistic sense, and we built out a ton of capabilities. But then are we done? No, actually, there's two other big things that you have to think about at the same time. Is privacy a feature or a product? It's a feature for a product. And so one of the biggest problems you see in this space is people come say, buy my token, I have this feature, I'm quantum resistant, I'm private, I'm this thing. And we're like, okay, great. What problem do you solve? And who do you solve it for? Whose life are you making better? What are you making better with the thing? Privacy is a means to an end, but it's not an end unto itself. You don't bring an umbrella for the sake of bringing an umbrella. You bring an umbrella as you're traveling somewhere, trying to get somewhere, trying to do something. So the question is, well, who needs the privacy in the blockchain space? So there's a very closely related topic called abstraction. And it's a big change right now with how we're using cryptocurrencies. You as consumers, you're used to an intention-driven world. You walk into Starbucks or your local coffee shop and you say, I want a coffee. And they say, okay, we'll make that for you. And they make it. You pay some money, you leave. It's a simple relationship. But with cryptocurrencies, you don't do this. You say, okay, I'm going to tell you how to make a coffee. I'm going to tell you where to get the beans from. I'm going to tell you how long you need to roast it, what you need to do to grind it. I'm going to tell you how to pour it into the cup, and all these other details. It's a lot of work. And you have to know everything about it. So you have to know how Ethereum works to use Ethereum. You have to know how Solana works to use Solana. You have to know how Cardano works to use Cardano. That's not a consumer product. I don't know how the phone works. Here's what I know. I click this button. It's got a fingerprint. You click that. You open it up, and okay, let's see what we got here. I got some pictures, and at the hotel, they had a parrot in the lobby, and I took a picture of the parrot. So I just tap it, and look at that. It just comes on up. Now, a miracle of technology had to happen for this. Biometric sensors, multi-touch screen. You had to have all this amazing circuitry for the battery. You had to have a whole operating system running on this thing. You had to have an app layer. You had to be able to take the picture. So a super sophisticated camera. There's probably more than 1 million people that collaborated across the world over decades of time for all that technology to happen. But I, as the consumer, I don't have to care. I don't have to know. All I know, my user experience is I click this side button, I push this thing, and the parrot appears. How about that? It's my intention. I want to show you the parrot. It's a cool parrot. It's pretty loud. Kept people up at night. So, why the heck is it in cryptocurrencies you have to know how the phone works to use the phone? How do you have to know how to make the coffee to buy a coffee? It doesn't make any sense. So we're changing that. The industry as a whole is moving towards abstraction, and we have this concept of intents. You tell me your intention. I want to buy 100 of this coin at this price, fills in this amount of time. And somehow the network just figures it out. The problem is that intention requires privacy. And the reason being is if I know your intentions on a global public network, I can trade against you. So we're negotiating. And we say, okay, I am prepared to pay between $50 and $100 for the bicycle. How much am I paying if you know? $100. Because I just told you I'm prepared to pay up to $100. If I tell you that, you're just going to ask for $100. You don't reveal your intentions. You lose negotiation power. So globally, when you want to use a cryptocurrency, only the people involved in the transaction should know, and they should know the minimum viable amount to satisfy that and fulfill that. So intention requires privacy. And without it, it's very bad for you as a consumer. And your intention is the product. What you want to do with the cryptocurrency is that. Already, there's a massive sea change, and 90% of all DEX transactions and 60% of all DeFi transactions by 2030 will be intent-based. And what's really cool is all the winners and losers are being shook up. There's a nice little acronym from the cake world, APSS, and the S part of it is solvers. And what that means is those are the people who satisfy your intention. That settlement is going to move. So right now you have all this settlement on Ethereum and Solana and other chains, but the solvers get to pick that. So we're going to move into a multi-chain world with intention. So let's say you want to buy 100 of some token. Well, maybe 15 lives on Solana, and 10 lives on Ethereum, and 30 lives on Cardano. It's just like the coffee beans. Maybe some are from Ethiopia, and some are from Kenya, and some are from Somalia. It's not your problem. The barista's just going to grab them all, grind them up, put them in, and make you a coffee. And you never ask, you never think about it. Similarly, where the token's processed, all of these things, which chains process it, the user doesn't have to care or understand or know. This is the magic of intention and why it's so powerful. So he who controls the intents controls the universe. It's like the Arrakis, the spice, because that's going to ultimately decide where all the blockchain traffic gets routed. And it's going to shake up the winners and losers inside the space. It's just like when we had the change from Windows and the desktop and laptop to the cell phone. Microsoft didn't lose its operating system monopoly. It's not like magically people stopped using Windows, but they bought more devices with other systems, and Windows became less and less relevant over time. They grew around Windows. And similarly with this, it's going to change the winners and losers of the cryptocurrency space. So we said, okay, we need to have privacy-enhancing technology. We need to treat it like a blanket, wrap ourselves up, get waterproof, and we need to embrace abstraction. And if we embrace abstraction through intention, then we have a system that can talk to everyone everywhere. So Midnight actually, this year, is going to talk to more than 30 blockchain ecosystems. We'll be able to actually do work with Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, Solana, XRP, all kinds of different ecosystems. That means transactions, customers, and TVL can flow through, and you create hybrid applications where things can live on Ethereum but do something on Midnight. And they can spend in Ether, and they can spend in Bitcoin, and they can spend in ADA or any cryptocurrency they so choose. At the same time, there's another revolution happening, because this is kind of a DeFi thing. So that's from the cryptocurrency space. Well, what about the TradFi? What about the banks? What about the big financial institutions? Well, we have this smart compliance revolution. You may hear this term, real-world assets. Well, with real-world assets, that is the stocks and the bonds and the real estate and the intellectual property. By 2035, the big guys, Citigroup and the others, say there's going to be about $10 trillion worth of real-world assets that are going to enter the cryptocurrency space. And it's easy to understand why. Because traditionally, when we sell real-world assets, they're sold regionally and not all the time. Stocks, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, only in Tokyo, only in New York, only in London. But the world is global. It operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And why is it you should limit your customers? If I have a good product, why can't somebody in Indonesia buy it at 2:30 in the morning? Why is it somebody can't buy my stock in the Philippines or some other place? Why is it we're fragmented and siloed? This doesn't make any sense. You want liquidity. You want to be able to sell to everybody inside the world. The challenge is that the whole world of real-world assets has compliance connected to it. You have KYC and AML and all these other word salad terms like know your customer, know your business, anti-money laundering, anti-terrorist financing, all this type of stuff. Japan, they say, are you a member of a violence group? Yes or no? It's like compliance. They ask these questions. Okay, it's important. So how does compliance work in a public world? If you have KYC and AML and I ask all these questions like where do you live, what's your name, where are you from, all these things. Well, if I put it in a public system, the whole world gets to see all of that. Would you be particularly comfortable if the whole world knows where you live? The whole world knows what you're buying, how much money you're worth. The whole world knows your tax burdens and all these other things. No, most people would say, I want that to stay private. So how do these assets then go into the cryptocurrency space? Well, privacy-enhancing technology. You need to wrap that blanket around it to protect it. That's the key. So another big pillar of the Midnight program, beyond just waterproofing and getting abstraction right, is to figure out how to put legacy compliance into the Web3 world. So we can have one global market that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's automated and settlement is compliance. Doesn't matter where the customer comes from, you can create these beautiful public-private partnerships where you go to the nation state and you say, tell us the rules. The private industry writes the rules as software, and then there are libraries that anybody can use. It does two things at the same time. One, it means that commerce is instant. Instead of thinking in terms of days or weeks or months with high levels of fraud, they happen at the same speed crypto happens. And two, commerce scales down to the individual because all of the compliance is actually open source. It's software. If I want to have German customers, I just grab the German software library. If I want to have Japanese customers, I just grab the Japanese software library. That's how the software industry works. How do I localize and do Japanese stuff? Well, I grab the Japanese module and it translates into Japanese. How do I have Korean? Oh, I grab the Korean module and it translates into Korean. It's very simple. Compliance should work this way. And once you've automated that entire system and put those pieces together, then what you've done is you've unlocked $10 trillion of value in billions of customers. But more importantly, compliance isn't just about rules, it's about sovereignty. It's a very important concept. So we think of this in terms of the individual, the company, and the government. You see, we passed a constitution with Cardano, and it's a really interesting question to ask. How do you regulate that transaction when the constitution of Cardano was ratified on chain? Because we had people in more than 100 countries vote on it. So you had one big collective transaction, but people in 100+ jurisdictions participate. So are we under German law, United States law, Chinese law, Japanese law, whoever has the most nuclear weapons law? Whose law are we under? You see, it's an interesting question. It's one event, and it was a collective event, a global event. How do you regulate that? And how does a mid-size or small nation state, how does a company get assurances in this type of world that their intellectual property is going to be respected or the rules of business are going to be respected? Here in Japan, you guys produce some of the best IP in the world. When I was growing up in Hawaii, I remember watching things for Studio Ghibli, you know, like My Neighbor Totoro and all these other things. I just developed a love for that. Well, then ChatGPT comes out, and they create Ghibli mode. And what do? They say, oh, make this look like Totoro. Make this look like Spirited Away. Make this look like Castle in the Sky. And they just create it. And did they get royalties here in Japan for that? No. They took the IP, and everybody got to use it, and that company got nothing. So how does that Japanese company get restitution from that American company in San Francisco? Or if Toyota collaborates with a Chinese firm, they're working on some brake technology, and the Chinese firm steals the technology. How does that Japanese company get restitution? Will the Chinese government be nice about it and say, oh, we've never seen this before, here's your money back? No. They just don't do this. So part of compliance isn't just about KYC and AML. More broadly, it's about the rules of the relationship. If we're going to do business together, if my nation's going to work with your nation, if you and me are going to be working together, we have to get some understanding of what is the regulating function of this relationship. What are you going to reveal to me? What am I going to reveal to you? Selective disclosure. What do I keep private? What do you keep private? What do we reveal publicly? What do we reveal only to each other, but not to the world in these types of relationships? And this creates an algorithmic way of thinking about that. So then suddenly when you build commercial systems, you can build commercial systems where a Japanese company, if you do business with them, even if you're in America, you follow Japanese law. If you're a British company, even if you're doing something in Zanzibar or doing something in Kenya, they follow UK law for that transaction. And these digital goods are regulated by that. That is the ultimate real-world use case. That's the ultimate application. So much of what we do with globalization is trying to figure out how to just get people to follow the rules and make sure they actually followed them. And in the event that they didn't follow them, try to claw back some of these things. And it's not a solution to say just let an empire grow and just inflict upon everybody one standard. That's the Roman way. We don't do that anymore. We'd like to respect and appreciate everybody's country. So that requires privacy. So this is Midnight in a nutshell, the project. We put it all together. We put these three pillars together, pet, abstraction, and smart compliance. And we said, okay, it's a toolkit. It lives on top of the blockchain space. It's kind of like a meta chain. And the way we built it, it can just talk to all the other chains. And it doesn't matter if you're a Cardano user. It doesn't matter if you're an Ethereum user or a Solana user. You can use those capabilities together. And what this is going to allow you to do is start asking questions like, what are the rules? What do people need to know? And how do we make it simple and easy for people to use it? Then we said, okay, that's great, but what does this mean to the Cardano ecosystem? Well, Cardano is the tale of two cryptocurrencies. On one hand, we are the most principled, and we've achieved amazing things. We're the most decentralized. We have a phenomenal government. We've gotten 1.4 million users. You know, we've gone from nothing to something very significant. And it has a durability and a resilience that's very rare in an industry where everything changes every 6 months to a year. On the other hand, you may have noticed that the DeFi ecosystem of Cardano is quite small. You know, not a lot of users, not a lot of TVL, not a lot of transactions. So a lot of people in 2026 say, okay, is Cardano okay? We said, well, first you think in terms of the infrastructure. Is the infrastructure sound? Yes. You'll see a great presentation on Ouroboros Leos tonight, and it's going to show you how we have a plan to solve one of the hardest problems in computer science, the blockchain trilemma. And this year we turned it on. And Hydra is another great example of that. So the infrastructure is fundamentally sound. We have technology that no one else has. But the two layers up were weaker, utilities and experiences. So the utilities are what can you do, and experiences are how do you do it. And there we're an island, and unfortunately not well connected. So what Midnight does by nature of this new paradigm is it gives the applications on Cardano the ability to upgrade and add new capabilities themselves, and thus give those capabilities to the rest of the industry to gain users, transaction volume, MAUs, TVL, all the things that people care about. Because to compete, you have to be different. This didn't take over the world because Steve Jobs built a better keyboard, slightly better plastic keys, a little bit better BlackBerry action. It changed it because it fundamentally changed how you use it. You had this multi-touch. It just works. You just tap it. And it had simplicity about it. So for Cardano dApps to win, they have to do different things than the Solana dApps and the Ethereum dApps. And what's really cool is that this year, the Cardano dApps are going to upgrade to use Midnight. They still use ADA, because you can pay in any currency anywhere. Still utilizes the Cardano network. It still creates transactions. But now Cardano applications do different things than the rest of the applications. And through Midnight, because it can talk to, at the end of the year, 30 plus cryptocurrencies, well, that means it'll be able to do all those different things for people everywhere, whether in the traditional world or not, and has a beautiful, easy user experience. So when we did this tour, we also thought it was really important for people to understand that. I'm not in the business of building one thing, abandoning it, and then going and building another thing and then abandoning it and then building another thing. My sin is I just hold on too long. I never throw anything away. I'm a pack rat. So when we look at Cardano, when we were building Midnight, I didn't want a successor. I wanted a kid. You're like the father, Cardano, the son, Midnight. We're building a family. And what this does is it gives us the ability to trade and sell things in ways that we've never been able to before. And it allows us to reinvigorate the conversation. Cardano, Midnight is a Cardano native asset. It's actually the first CNA to be listed in the Binance ecosystem. It's the one that's getting liquidity all around. It's brought in Circle, you may have noticed that, and all the other major integrations that we've historically not been able to get. So we're very excited about that, and we're just going to keep building it up. So we have a lot of great presentations tonight, but I wanted to give some context, and I wanted to explain a bit about what we're working on. Midnight is complicated, so we have ambassadors to help explain Midnight. Where's Taro-san? There he is. So he's the hometown boy. So if you have any questions, he's Japanese. And we've been going throughout the entire country to kind of share this vision with everybody and also just update you on what's going on. The fundamentals of Cardano are sound. The ecosystem is strong. Despite the markets where they're at right now, we've weathered many, many storms. And I do believe our best days are ahead of us. And what's really cool and interesting is we're bringing new ideas and new things to the table. This is about the great humanization of cryptocurrencies. You can't have harmony without the yin and the yang. You have to have the public and the private together. They have to be together. And once you have these two things and the user is in charge of it, then you're just asking a question of how do you connect it to everyone everywhere. This allows you to connect it to the companies and the government. This allows you to connect it to the entire cryptocurrency space. And why you win is it's just easy. Once this all comes together, to create a wallet, to have a user experience, you just have a thumb and a PIN code and boom, you have a wallet. You want to connect to Ethereum, you just click a button, you click authorize, and then now you have an Ethereum wallet. You want to connect to Cardano, you click a button, and boom, you have a Cardano wallet. If you ever lose your phone, it disappears. You connect your social accounts, you have a recovery system. You just load it onto a new phone. Secure, it's fine, no problem. Now, tens of thousands of technological miracles have to happen to make that occur, but that's my job. And that's why I have armies of cryptographers and engineers and partners and all these other people to figure it out. Just like Apple has an army of people to figure out how to make that phone, and Samsung has an army of people to figure out how to make that phone. The consumer doesn't have to know. What they have to know is I just push it and it works, and it's magical. That's how you get to 1 billion users. And also, they have to be able to use it without having to pay for it up front. When you use Google and Facebook and all of these massive services with billions of users, do you have to enter a credit card to do a Google search? No, you get it for free. So what Midnight does with the tokenomics and how we've designed it, you actually can do the Web 2 model where the user doesn't have to have a token to use the system. So that's what makes it really special. A much better user experience, a much better way of onboarding people, and you don't have to charge people up front to use this type of system. And you can let the builders figure it out. And we have this great ecosystem that is Cardano that has tons of loyal, passionate people that are very scrappy. They don't have a lot of resources, and that makes them lean and agile and forces them to move quickly and forces them to be very conservative with what they spend, to be able to upgrade into this paradigm and bring it to the rest of the space. And it's being built all across the world. There's probably more than, I think, over 100 partners now with Midnight, including Google, that's working on the cloud side. And there's a lot of cool things to announce there. And so it's a great ecosystem. All right, so I'll stop here, and I'm going to turn it on over to Taro-san. Come on up.
Thank you.
And he's going to tell you a little bit more about Midnight. Thanks, man. Cheers.
皆さんこんにちは。ミッドナイトジャパンの代表を務めている木村と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。Charles, thank you so much for your speech and amazing, just sharing with us the amazing things that we're doing at Midnight. 今日のプレゼンテーションはですね、ちょっと英語でやらせていただきますが、私こちらの会場にいますので、もしくはご質問になったりとか何かがありましたら、ぜひ私の方にですね、お声かけていただければと思います。I will be doing this presentation in English, and so yes, we'll be sharing. I'm going to mix it up just a little bit. Hopefully Stevie will forgive me for this. ちょっとですね、皆さんいろいろと長くお話を聞いたと思うので、日本の方たち、for the Japanese people that we have here today, I'm going to do one exercise. ちょっとですね、簡単なエクササイズを皆さんと一つやりたいと思います。選択的自由っていうこのコンセプト。The concept of selective disclosure. I want all of you to go through the process of what that kind of looks like. どういうことか、選択的自由というのも。なので、ちょっと私が何個かの質問をします。I'm going to do a couple of questions. And I want you to raise your hands. 手を挙げてほしいです。それで、Yes だったらそのまま手を挙げて。No だったら手を下げてほしいです。いいですね。I'm going to ask a couple of questions. And I want you to raise your hand if it's a yes. And if it's a no, I want you to drop your hands basically in itself. Okay. この会場の中に私にお名前を言ってもいいという方は何名ぐらいいますでしょうか？ How many people in this crowd is willing to share with me your names? 手を挙げてください。ありがとうございます。まだまだ手を挙げてください。Keep your hands up. Please keep your hands. じゃあこの中で年齢を私に開示してもいいという方は何人かいますでしょうか？ How many people in here are willing to share with me your age? No であれば手を下げてください。お、ありがとうございます。皆さん。では次の質問です。この中で今の家の住所を私に教えていいっていう方は手を挙げてください。People in here is happy to share with me their actual house address. でも何人かいますね。ありがとうございます。じゃあこの中で実際に銀行口座の預金帳を私に見せてもいいっていう方、ぜひ手を挙げてください。How many people in here are willing to show me their bank accounts? ありがとうございます。ちなみに、So how much do you have? No. 違います。1対1で、one on one, she'll tell me. では、その中で、去年1年間、ウェブを検索したすべての検索件を私に見せてもいいというのはどうでしょうか？ Are you willing to disclose everything you did last year on the internet to me? はい。ありがとうございます、皆さん。Thank you very much, 皆さん。これが選択的自由です。This is called selective disclosure. これがミッドナイトっていうのは、これから世の中に、What we're trying to do here is basically take this option. このオプションっていうのを世の中に反映させるっていうのが我々のビジョンになります。なので、それに基に一度、このプレゼンテーションに入っていただければと思いますけど、この今のやったエクササイズが、今後世の中に我々としては広めていくっていうのが、我々のミッションになってきますので、すみません、ここから英語に切り替えさせていただきますので、また後ほどいろいろ日本語でお話しさせていただければと思います。Alright, so as Charles alluded to, in the traditional blockchain ecosystem that we've had the ability to do transparent, obviously auditable, as well as obviously multiple different types of transaction peer-to-peer in an amazing way in blockchain. That was an amazing experience as a whole. But with blockchain, the promise that it had, we had to obviously have compromises. And the compromises that we've had is the fact that we've had too much transparency. We went through this exact exercise here. She was willing to show me her bank account, but yeah, that is the level of transparency even further that we are currently exposing to the everyday world. Is that something that we're comfortable with? That is not what I'm comfortable with, and I don't think any of you here are comfortable with exposing that much information. And so we are at a time where we need a paradigm shift in how we are going to interact and as well as engage multiple different entities, multiple different groups, multiple different industries to come and join in this space. And that is what we in Midnight are trying to do, is the fact that every single one of these different industries, people need privacy in order for us to be able to do what we want to do in a comfortable and in a very, very easy way. Now, because the fact that so much of what we are trying to do is exposed, what we have basically been hamstringed to is that we were not able to bring on board many different types of use cases, many different types of industries, many different types of use cases for this entire industry. And that is the one piece that I feel has been extremely challenging for us. When you talk to the biggest banks, Talk to the biggest real estate, insurance companies. They're always interested. Oh, you guys are building something amazing in blockchain. The security model is absolutely amazing. Peer-to-peer is interesting. How compliant are you? How much privacy do you have? Am I exposing everything to everybody? That is a problem. And I think what we've all in this room wanted to do when we first got into blockchain was we wanted to be able to change the world. That's why we're here. We're still here for that mission. I know Charles is still building for that mission. But you need to give the ability to choose the information that you want to be to give out. And that is what privacy ultimately unlocks. And so because we don't have this, current traditional industries are locked in their private, centralized ecosystems. I have a lot of customers that I dealt with in the Web 2 space. A lot. A lot of them want to do blockchain. But they don't want to do blockchain because they're a hospital, they're a service provider, they're a data aggregator, they're a car manufacturer, they're a chemical company. They have so many secrets, they have so much data that they do not want to have exposed. And they need the ability to use privacy in a customizable way. And that is what we are here doing at Midnight. So the concept of rational privacy, this is where Midnight comes in. Midnight is building on a simple idea, right? Privacy should not be absolute. It's always going to be an ability to control the information that you want to give. Everybody here today, control the information you gave to me today. That is what enterprise people need. That is what individual needs in itself, right? And that is the biggest unlock that we have. And so it's a very exciting time. I think we've all seen the current markets at privacy, privacy, privacy. But I think it's not just privacy in itself. It's privacy with the ability to customize what you want to give and what you don't want to give. That is a true unlock that we're building. And so this is something that we are here at Midnight building on. And we are looking to be able to have constructive discussions with the community as well as with partners, builders, as well as corporations who see the value in being able to do this. All right? Normally, everything is open in the blockchain space. But we built in Midnight privacy by default. So it is an option that you can have, but it is privacy by default. Disclosure only happens when it is necessary. Right? When a bank says, hey, Taro, I need to have some of the private information to do your background check. You just disclose specific informations. When I go to a bar in Japan, I don't need to do they don't need to check my background. They can see my white hair and they say, yeah, you're already 42 and above, don't worry about it. But in the States, they still want to see your ID. Why do you need to show your address for your ID? Why do you even need to show that you're 42? Why don't you just show that you're above 20 in order to be able to buy that specific beer that you want to buy? This is selective disclosure, and this capability is what we are currently trying to do. And we all have the ability to be able to control that as a whole. So we are here to build for the long term. So a lot of Web3 organizations, I used to be in a startup. You know what? A lot of people build for the next hype cycle. That's not what we're here for. If you were going to build real-world use cases, if you're going to build together with the biggest players in the world, and in Japan, we have a lot of big players here. If you're really serious about it, you need to start building with a concept, the fact that you're going to win long-term. It's not 3 months. It's not 6 months. Scott's not here today, my manager, the guy that I work with as well. But I told him, he asked me, Tara, how long do you think it's going to take in order for us to be able to make a maximum impact? And I said, look, in Japan, we have a word here called sanrende ichininmai, right? It's a very famous Japanese word. You are going to be considered by your peers an adult or basically you've been able to make an impact after 3 years. That is proving that you are going to build for last. But that's just a saying. I'm not saying that we're not going to make, impact within the next 3 years. We're definitely going to be way before that. But that means building long-term, building together with Toyota, building together with Panasonic for their long-term vision, right? All their CEOs now have to re-engineer. Japan is going through a DX transformation. DX、デジタルトランスフォーメーションを今どの業界でもやっていますと。明日のためにやってないです。将来のためにやってます。そこの将来にミッドナイトは言いますと。All these companies are trying to do DX, but they're not building for tomorrow. They're building for the next future. Future is long term. That's what we're here for. And that's what we're looking to do with all of our partners here locally here in Japan. So what can we do with Midnight? I think what I showed you today is a little bit of disclosure. What we're trying to talk with a lot of organizations is, look, banks, whether they can do stable coins using obviously privacy features as a whole. I think a big one in Japan is healthcare. We have a big population, an aging population, but a lot of cases are private data because we have one of the most stringent private data, GDPR rules here. It's very difficult to exchange information between 2 people, 3 people, 10 people. It's even more difficult. But if you have the ability, 選択的な自由, you can customize the information that you want to go out there without using the underlying metadata. This is interesting. And that is what we are here to unlock here in Midnight. And so multiple different industries. It doesn't have to be necessarily banking or finance. It can be a lot of different industries. But we want to make sure that we are having those critical discussions to help people take the next transition in the blockchain space. All right? And so to our fellow Cardano developers as well, we're not asking you to migrate across into Midnight. We are an add-on to what you guys have in itself. There's so many apps that are out there that's absolutely amazing on Cardano. We are complementary. We're going to tag team, right? In order for each of us to be able to get to a new place in itself. And that's the call out we have to our partners in Cardano is you have an advantage. First mover advantages to be able to take whatever you have right now, provide a private space as Charles was pertaining to, and be able to take it out to the world in itself. And if you want to come to Japan, I'm more than happy to partner with you, be able to execute that locally here in Japan as well. All right. So, you don't have to be technical. You don't necessarily have to be a developer. I am not a developer. 全然もうダメなディベロッパーなので、営業畑の人です。I'm coming from a sales background. So, but what we're looking for is to partner with technical people, community members, clients, customers, a lot of different places. And so we extend our invitation for you to join us to help build. This is a movement. This is not just a chain. This is not just a gimmick or a feature. This is a movement. And if we can do this correctly together, I think we are going to make maximum impact. And so without further ado, I would love to introduce to you my colleague, Jack.
Thanks, Sarah. Community is very important at Midnight. And the heart of this community is the Nightforce Ambassador Program. We actually have some Nightforce leaders in the room with us here. Guys, put your hands up. Let me know where you are. These are the guys. The Nightforce help us to bring the Midnight message to the world. They help us to drive the movement that Taro mentioned. They create content. They help us to engage with local communities all over the world. They host events for us all over the world, and they bring the good word of privacy to their communities. The Nightforce grows every single day. If this resonates with you and you'd like to be a part of this movement, you can come up to me or some of the guys afterwards, and we can get you into the program. I would really encourage anybody who cares about trust, who cares about privacy, to join the Midnight Discord. This is the core of the Midnight conversation. Charles is in there quite often answering questions. I'm in there. The Nightforce guys are in there. Taro's in there. We're all in there. That's where the conversation about Midnight and about privacy is happening. So make sure that you get into that Discord. And of course, follow us on all other social platforms as well, like X. For those who want to build, we have got a whole series of programs to support you from our Elite program, which is our excellent developer program. We've also today just launched Build Club, which is an 8-week program that helps people take their idea stage projects to investment-worthy proposals. And we have a very, very strong team internally that supports this. And throughout the year, we'll be launching further accelerators and other things to help people to build the projects that they envision on the Midnight Network. And of course, there are opportunities for funding. So that's all there on our website too. So I would really encourage you to scan this QR code. Here you can find a link to the regional Japanese channels that Taro set up. You can also find a link to the Discord, to our X, to our website. That is where all the magic happens. So yeah, please take a moment to scan this QR code. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's also my pleasure to introduce my favorite Sri Lankan, Mr. Kavinda from Intersect.
Thanks, Jack. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in Okinawa. It's actually my first time here in Okinawa. It's always a pleasure to be in Japan because Cardano's birthplace started here. But moreover, it's the communities like yours that keep asking the right questions about where Cardano is going, how we are evolving, how we are doing things by adding new capabilities without losing its first principles, how we are scaling without centralizing, and also how we are adding partners, new partners, without fragmenting the ecosystem. So this is why you see Intersect and Midnight up here on the screen. Not like a headline, but a signal as the ecosystems mature. Governance, coordination, and delivery matter just as much as code. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So just to start off, what is Intersect? For those of you who do not know, Intersect is Cardano's member-based organization, which supports its on-chain governance and ecosystem coordination. So what does this mean? As you know, as Cardano evolved as an ecosystem, there were a lot of things that changed. Now we have multiple founding entities. We have so many development teams currently building on Cardano. Individual teams, companies, different enterprises. And also we have an on-chain governing mechanism as well. So when we have all of these things, we also need a coordination layer to make sure things run smoothly without halting, without slowing down, because sometimes decentralization tends to slow things down a little bit too. But you need, when you have a good coordination layer, things are a lot more smoother. So what do we say when we say governance? As Charles mentioned before, in 2024 December, we had the Constitutional Convention, and it was great. We ratified the first on-chain constitution. It was a world first. We made history there. But that constitution itself also unlocked Cardano's governing mechanism. That constitution is a living, breathing document. Why do I say this? It's worth mentioning it here because we recently had the first constitutional amendment proposed by the Japanese community, a community member from Japan, approved by the DREPs living globally. So what does that tell you? It tells you that this ecosystem has evolved and it's owned by the community, which is you. You own it. You govern it. So as we unlocked the Cardano's treasury, we also had the first community-owned budgeting cycle last year. Intersect helps administer that. So we are currently administering over 345 million ADA, which is a large amount. But we've worked a long time for this. For the past 2 years, as Intersect has been a very young organization, but in the last 2 years, we've gained the community's trust. All of you, builders, community members, blockchain enthusiasts, Cardano-centric, and maybe from other ecosystems as well, has come together to Intersect to help shape the future of Cardano. And as we do all of these things, there might have been certain things that during the last year's budgeting cycle that we had to figure out. If you've been a community member for a long time, you might have seen there were parts that we had to create because there was none that was existent at the time. Might have not been perfect, but we got it done. We have a process now. So we are going into 2026 now. We are refining our processes. We're making things a lot more easier for community members to get involved in these conversations through Intersect, coming there, having the discussions, while we help coordinate these processes, and also doing the delivery management of it. When the community has approved these proposals for all of these contracts, Intersect is helping making sure that they do get delivered. So we are accountable for that as well. So where does Midnight come into this? Midnight is now an enterprise member of Intersect, which is great. Why? Because that means Midnight is now at the heart of Cardano's ecosystem, getting involved in our committees, working groups through Intersect, technical discussions, governance discussions, so that they bring their expertise right to the center of Cardano. Why is this important? Because, as you heard from the previous speakers as well, privacy, selective disclosure, and compliance-aware designs for products and services need to be added on early, because that's how you get better systems. If you add them later on, you end up getting bad trade-offs. So Midnight being inside Intersect now as an enterprise member, their team brings this expertise directly into Cardano's roadmap and getting integrated in there. So what does that tell you? It tells you that Midnight is not outside Cardano's ecosystem. Midnight and Cardano are symbiotic. They work hand in hand. So what do you see here? When you zoom out a little bit, as you all know, being community members who's been with Cardano, when Cardano started, we did things a lot differently than most of the other ecosystems. Maybe we took a little bit of time. Maybe we took the hard way. Why? Because we wanted to make sure we create systems that last. And like what Taro mentioned, in Japan, it's known that the systems that we built are not built for 1 or 2 years. They're built for centuries. They're built to last long after we are gone. So that's why our vision for 2030 says secure, reliable, censorship-resistant infrastructure for mission-critical applications. What does mission-critical applications really mean? What it means is systems that are built for societies and economies to rely on, not just experiments. And Cardano is built for that. And this vision goes beyond just protocol design. It goes into governance, coordination, delivery, and everything that we do. So how does this work? This is how I see all of these pieces coming together. Cardano provides the foundational layer, the decentralization, the security, the governance legitimacy, and partners like Midnight extends that foundation with privacy, selective disclosure, compliance-aware designs, transparency within reason, for real-life applications, so that institutions, governments, enterprises, and individuals can use and build these services and products without compromising trust. So where does Intersect come into all of this? Intersect is the intersection point of all of these capabilities coming together, all of these conversations coming together, this collaboration, the coordination layer. This is where all of these things meet. We help coordinate these things. As an example, as you know, we recently started this thing called the Pentad, which is worth mentioning because it's made out of Cardano's founding entities, the Input-Output Group, Cardano Foundation, Emergo, together with the Midnight's Foundation. they're all coming together now to help upgrade Cardano's critical infrastructure upgrades, partnerships that the ecosystem has been needing for a very long time. And Intersect is helping coordinate that. And if you have been keeping up with the announcements, there's been so many great announcements that's been coming up. You've heard one recently as last week. You'll hear some more coming up in the next few weeks. We are getting things done faster than we've ever done before. So what does that tell you? That tells you that this ecosystem is now maturing. It's not breaking, it's maturing. It's evolving. So if you have not been a part of Intersect, this is the time for you to get involved. Because I'll close with this. It's that Cardano was never really built for hype. It was built for a purpose. And we were always about doing things intentionally with first principles, as Charles always mentions. And that's why we are going to win this game. So if you are not join Intersect, make sure you do. Even if you don't have the capacity or the capability to understand blockchain technology, that's fine. Join Intersect. Get to know people. Learn. We have so many different people from around the world a part of this. Because that's what Cardano is. Intersect, it's the human layer. That's what I say most of the time for Cardano. And we have this motto that I've been saying throughout this tour, and I'll finish off with that. It's that we have this motto at Intersect. We say, let's build the future of Cardano together. But what it actually means, what I think what it actually means, is that we are all coming together to build the future of blockchain technology together with the community at heart. So please join this journey, and thank you so much for being here today. Thank you. And I'd like to invite, Christina, there you go. Christina from Blink Labs to talk about Cardano client diversity.
Good evening. My name's Christina. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Blink Labs, and I also chair the board for Pragma, which is another nonprofit open source, or nonprofit that promotes open source on the blockchain. I'm here today to talk about client diversity. You'll also hear me refer to this as node diversity. So what happens when 100% of a network depends on a single code base? Well, we don't actually have to wonder. We can look at history. In 2016, Ethereum suffered a Shanghai DOS attack. So at the time, Geth was the majority client, and Parity was the minority client. And on the morning of DevCon 2, a malicious actor exploited vulnerabilities. And when he did so, he actually took down Geth. When this happened, they were able to resolve the issue and fix it, but the problem is this man didn't stop. This malicious actor continued to attack the network for 2 weeks. And over those 2 weeks, block production slowed down. There were a lot of failures. They did resolve the issue. It resulted in 2 hard forks, and additional time was spent off-chain to just make everything back stable where it was before. But we don't have to go so far back. We can look at Cardano last year. We suffered our own DOS attack. The attack first impacted testnet. A malformed transaction came out, and it did cause issues, but they were able to quickly resolve it. The problem was the next day, somebody, a malicious actor, actually took that same vulnerability to mainnet. During that time, we did have issues, and we took about 14 hours with some of our best developers working together to resolve this. We're very proud that we were able to resolve this, and Ouroboros organically healed the network. So let's get back to that node diversity. I keep saying node diversity and client diversity. Node diversity means having multiple independent, interoperable implementations of a single blockchain spec. There's a lot of buzzwords right there for you. Really what it means is it's the same protocol but different code. When we do that, we're using different languages. We are using different design features, different choices. And the one thing that we get to do here is come up with our own best ways to do it. But what we all have to do is conform to the spec and each other. We all have to agree this is a valid block. So why do we care about node diversity? Well, I just talked to you a little bit about the resilience aspect. We know by having the code in different languages, we're not going to have the same bugs, we're not going to have the same vulnerabilities, but we can also look at this as the organizational side of things. Whether we have an issue with funding or development has to stop, if we have these multiple implementations, Cardano goes on. And let's look at innovation. Of course, we're competing with each other. We're trying to make the best product possible. But while we're doing this, we're actually teaching each other wins, losses, what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and we're helping each other build a better product as a result. And then, of course, the collaboration. As I said, we're working together on this. We're teaching each other what worked and what didn't. So I want to talk to you about some of the different nodes. I'm not going to get very technical on this. Really what I want to talk about is the different teams that are working, the different languages that we're doing this in, and I really want to emphasize that because this diversity is critical for us. This is decentralization. So I'm going to high level some of these. The first one I'm going to talk about is Amaru. Amaru is a Cardano node implemented in Rust, funded by the Cardano community. One of the things we're actually most proud about with Amaru is it was the first treasury proposal that was passed. Now, Amaru is a Pragma project, again, that nonprofit I mentioned. And another thing that's awesome about this is it's a collaborative effort. Multiple teams have come together to work on this together. One thing that they did ask me to mention is they will have a treasury proposal coming out soon, and they hope you'll pay attention. Another one is Dingo. Dingo is a Cardano node implemented in Go. This was funded in part by Catalyst, but it's largely an unfunded project. The team behind Dingo is Blink Labs. That is my team. And what we are most proud of is what we've been able to do. We have one full-time developer, 2 part-time developers, and a handful of paid open source contributors. Another one is Dolos. Dolos is a Cardano node implemented in Rust. The team behind Dolos is TX Pipe. And one point they're particularly proud of is that it supports all historical eras. This is not something that the other nodes have gotten to yet. What is Girolamo? Girolamo is a Cardano node implemented in TypeScript. The team behind Girolamo is Harmonic Labs. You'll also hear them as H Labs. They also have a treasury proposal coming out in the near future, and hope you'll pay attention. And then we have Scalus. Scalus is a Cardano node that's actually implemented in Scalia, but it is, they're also doing things with Java, they're doing things with TypeScript. I really want to call attention to the critical Cardano node components on JVM. This is huge for Java. These other two I just wanted to call attention to specifically for the languages being used, because this is my emphasis. We have Turbo Cardano that is implemented in C++, and we have Razor that's implemented in C#. Again, we have all these different languages coming together. They're all using the same specs. They're all conforming. They all have the same conformance. We all agree that this is a valid block, but we're doing it different ways. So let's talk about the broader ecosystem. All this node diversity, we're actually coming together in new ways, and we're helping each other. So we've had 2 node diversity workshops, both of them in France, actually. One hosted by IOG and one hosted by the Amaru team, and that was through that treasury funding proposal. Another way that we come together is with Cardano Blueprint. Cardano Blueprint is an open source reference for the Cardano, or open source reference for the specs. And what this is important is all the teams are coming together. We're all contributing our knowledge. We're all contributing what we've learned, because the Haskell node didn't have all the documentation we needed. But we come together, we share our wins and losses, we're implementing it all in this open source repo, And we invite anybody who wants to contribute to take a look and contribute. So what's the big picture here? The big picture here is definitely decentralization. It's beyond just block production and validation. We're building a future. The very essence of Cardano is becoming decentralized. It's not just about the SPOs. We're diversifying the software that they're running. We can talk about protocol improvements. Obviously, the more eyes that are looking at the code, the more bugs are going to get fixed. But lowering the barrier of entry, this is huge for me. This is where all the different languages come together. You can pick the language that works for you. We can meet you at the language you already know. We're not asking everybody to learn Haskell. And we really believe that this will invite new developers to come to Cardano, choose the language that makes the most sense for their project, the one that they're the most comfortable working with. And of course, enterprise readiness. I have an enterprise background, and I can tell you with confidence, enterprise prefers multi-clients for redundancy, for resilience. We're given that. We're doing that already. So, Cardano development is not slowing down. It's expanding. Teams that may have had disagreements are working together for a common goal. We want a robust network. The Cardano community is using on-chain governance to fund our own infrastructure development. This is a great time. Cardano is showing us what a mature, decentralized development environment should be like. Thank you. Now, I do have a QR code here. I would like you to scan this. You have 3 choices. Just pick one. You don't have to do all 3. If you are a developer, there's a link to the Cardano blueprint. Please contribute. If you are an ADA holder, there is a link to ADA Stat and look at our governance actions. I want you to verify that your DREP, your SPO, that they are voting in favor of node diversity. And for everybody else, I have a great article from Pi Lanningham. He was one of the gentlemen that worked on the issue that we had in November last year. He can tell you what went wrong, what went right, and what we've learned as a result. So thank you guys very much. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Michael up to talk about Laos.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael and I'm the last speaker, and I'm a product manager for Cardano Core at I/O. I've been asked to come along here on the midnight tour and share with you some of the exciting and high-profile things we're doing at I/O for Cardano. So I'm here to present a very high-profile and exciting project called Laos. So Laos is the scaling solution for the future for Cardano. So it is an upgrade of layer 1 to make Cardano faster. So when I mean layer 1, I mean the nodes that Christina was just talking about, making them faster to process transactions and put them into blocks. And what Laos will do is propel Cardano to be on par with the competition in terms of transaction throughput and capacity to handle more and more users and applications to the network. And I'm happy to say that Laos will be released this year in 2026, so it's exciting stuff. So what is the challenge that has been facing us? Well, up until now, the maximum throughput, the speed of the network, has been between 10 to 15 transactions per second. Obviously, it can go faster than that with other layer 2 solutions like Hydra and Midgard, but this is the core at layer 1. So the number may not sound like a lot, but it actually has been suitable up until now as we've built the foundation of Ouroboros, proven the design and the robustness of the protocol. But now we need to move on to higher transaction throughput in order to compete and drive further adoption. Another factor is that SPOs in the long term, and so the acronym SPO, for those that don't know, means stake pool operators. So they're the ones that run our nodes. They need to support the cost of their operations from transaction fees instead of from block rewards. So to do this, we need a minimum network usage of 50 transactions per second. So clearly, we can't stay where we are at 10 transactions per second. We must move forward and support the higher throughput. And as we do this, it is critical that we maintain the existing security and resilience of the network. And Cardano has a decentralization like no other network. And this is actually quite an engineering challenge in order to maintain the resiliency of the network and have the throughput that we're aiming to achieve. So, introducing Laos, Cardano's next generation consensus protocol. With Laos, we're aiming to achieve a 50 times improvement in network capacity for the first release, the mainnet. So this is around 500 transactions per second. So we're going from that 10 transactions per second to 500 transactions per second, the first release. But we're not stopping there. Very soon, in the next month, we'll be showcasing that Laos can actually support 1,000 transactions per second. So that's going to 100 times improvement. And we're not stopping there. With subsequent releases, we're going to be going faster because our plans and our designs show that we can go down that path. So you may be thinking, okay, why are we releasing in the first release only at 500 transactions per second? Why don't we just go up to like 10,000 in the first release? And that is because the way we do things at Cardano, we do things in the right, reassured way, and we need to bring the SBOs along with us so that they can support this new change with their existing infrastructure and hardware. So, how does Laos work? Well, it's very complicated, but I guess to keep it simple, the main thing that you need to know is that we're introducing a new block, and this is called an endorser block. And so this block will actually pack in a lot more transactions, like a lot more. And the existing blocks will be called ranking blocks. And there will be a link between the ranking blocks and the endorser blocks. And there's a whole bunch of complicated logic in there about which blocks get priority. But the design is proven. We've got many prototypes and simulations that are proving this, and now we're in active development. Okay, so what are the metrics we're aiming for to confirm these? So in the first release, as I said, it's a 50 times improvement in throughput, which translates to 300 transaction kilobytes per second. So we're actually technically using that measurement, which is, as I said, is around 500 transactions per second. And the confirmation times will be between 20 to 80 seconds. So why am I talking about transaction kilobytes per second? Well, this picture here shows a typical block, and those gray squares represent a transaction. And as you can see, they're all different sizes. So if we really want to accurately measure the throughput, we must also consider the size as well as the number of transactions. So you'll see on this diagram here, we were talking about transaction kilobytes per second. You can see that the confirmation times are between 20 and 80 seconds in this first design that we're releasing. And you can see as we go above 300 transaction kilobytes per second, we start getting congestion. And that shows that transactions that come in a bit later, they start getting queued up in the mempool. But like I said, this is our first release, the first design, and we've got many other improvements that we want to add to the design, and we'll get faster and faster. Okay, so this diagram here shows the current consensus protocol called Prios. And I just want to show you this so you get an idea of the scale that we're talking about. So all those green dots represent transactions, and the dark green dots are the typical throughput that we have at the moment on the network. And if we think about all the dots, so including the light green ones, that's the maximum throughput. So if we had maximum amount of transactions coming through the network. And that's at around 10 transactions per second. And then you can see those transactions getting packed into blocks below. So this represents Laos at 100 transactions per second. And actually, this first release is 5 times more than that. So you can see the amount of transactions that are now getting packed into blocks in comparison to the current throughput. And this video here kind of shows you the scale that we're going towards. So this is Laos at 100 transactions per second, but like I said, we're not stopping there. We're actually, if you times that by 5, you get 500 transactions per second, and then 1,000 that we're actually going to showcase in the next month. And then just to give you an idea where we're going, that's 10,000 transactions per second. So you can see the scales that we're talking about here and the engineering involved to make this happen. Okay, so where are we on the roadmap? So we've done a lot of design and research and planning to get where we are. That's done now. We've got a Cardano improvement proposal that's been published. You can read it at your leisure, and there's a lot of complicated things there describing how it works. We've finished the initial prototyping and simulations that prove that it works, and now we're in active development and building it. So the first release will be the Haskell node. That will happen this year in 2026 at the end. And then I've been involved in those node diversity workshops. I was there at the one in Paris. And all the other nodes are going to come along with us, and they're going to be implementing Laos as well. So finally, I just want to close with why Laos matters for Cardano. Well, it will enable high-volume applications. It will reposition Cardano as a high-throughput blockchain while maintaining the robust decentralization that we have like no other. And the higher capacity will attract more developers, more dApps, and users to the ecosystem. And so this line aligns with our long-term vision of establishing Cardano as the best-in-class blockchain. So Laos, in our first release, a 50 times improvement in throughput, all while maintaining the security and decentralization of the network, coming this year in 2026. And I encourage you to take a scan of that QR code, and that'll take you to the Laos landing page, and you'll find a whole bunch of information about what we're doing. Every week and every month, we release information about what we've been doing. Every month, there's a demo that's live, and you can see all those videos of what we've been doing. And there's actually a dashboard, too, where you can actually see developers coding in real time around the world 24/7. And with that, I'll hand it back to Charles.
Good work, Mike. So I wish I could bring everybody here. It's a huge ecosystem, and there's so many projects. And what makes me sad is when people aren't in the room. This is just a very small subset of a subset, but it's a representative sample of the best of Cardano. You have engineers, and you have organizations, you have diversity occurring, big, complex problems being solved. The blockchain trilemma is something that for over 10 years the industry has been working on. And the very first paper we published in the space for this was Ouroboros Classic. Came out, it was Tokyo Tech and University of Edinburgh, and others were on it. And Ouroboros Classic, that paper was in 2016, 10 years ago. So for 10 years, we've been working on this problem. And paper by paper by paper, 10,000 citations, over 250 papers, and Laos is the final form. And what makes this protocol so special is we designed it like you would the Shinkansen braking system or an aircraft or a rocket. So if you're on the Shinkansen, why do you trust it? Because you know no matter what happens, there's layers and layers of redundancies. If they have to brake and the primary system fails, a secondary system clicks in. And if that fails, a third system clicks in. That's why it's a reliable train. It's the safest train in the world. It's not by accident. it is through a methodical, deliberate process that produces that. The same with a rocket. You go up, there's redundant system after redundant system. So if Leos fails, it fails to Prouse, which is the protocol that's been running now for more than 5 years with Cardano and can survive tough attacks. So that's graceful failure and redundancy inside the system. So when you build in our ecosystem, you know that we think this way. We don't think in terms of days and weeks. We think like the Japanese. We think in terms of decades and centuries. In fact, we were just at a castle just outside of Fukuoka, and we were walking with the tour guide, and she said, oh, there's this terrible earthquake, and it damaged the castle, so this walkway you're on is temporary. And I said, oh, okay, so when are you going to replace it? And she said, oh, 2052, after we're done with the restoration. Only in Japan can a walkway that's going to be around for 26 years be a temporary walkway. Your children's children will walk in the real one. This is just temporary. But this is how you have to think for the economic, political, and social infrastructure. Everything we do, you put your money into it. That is destined for your children to inherit, which is destined for their children to inherit. The problem with technology, especially in America, in Silicon Valley, is we've become addicted to throwing things away. So we have this new thing, and then there's another new thing, and then there's another new thing. So you see with AI, it's like, it's Google. Oh, Google's great. And oh, no, actually now it's OpenAI. They're the big ones. And oh, now it's Anthropic and Claude. Oh, they're amazing. And oh, no, actually it's the Chinese with their models. Oh, now it's back to Google again. Every 6 months it changes. How do you build a society if the rules change, if the structures change, if the understandings change every 6 months? You can't. It's chaos. So technology is the great enabler. It brings us together and it gives us capabilities, but technology alone is not the solution for globalization, and it's not the solution for governance and these other things. So Cardano straddles both of those worlds. It has to evolve quickly and do things very fast and connect to this movement where every 6 months the rules change, which is why we built things like Midnight, because it's a place for that to work. But at the same time, Cardano also has to be methodical and slow and deliberate, which is why Kavinda's here with Intersect. That is a committee-based system. There's rules, there's participation, there's debate, there's deliberation. Nothing happens overnight. It takes weeks, months, years to make decisions. We think in terms of annual budgets, constitutional updates, these types of things. Both coexist in the same framework. And that's what makes it different from Bitcoin and from Ethereum and other places. People have a voice and there's a process. And when people look at that, they say, okay, they're not building for 2026. They're building for 2050. They're building for 2100. They're building for the future. So when I think, what should I put my nation state on? What should I put my voting system on? What should I put my central bank on? What should I put my social infrastructure, my retirement account, these types of things? They think, oh, it's Cardano, because that's the only thing that's going to be here in 50 years or 100 years. Maybe Bitcoin and Cardano, but everything else, I don't know. Changes every 6 months. I guess SWI is a big thing now, and NIR's coming back, and Solana is pretty big, but I don't know, meme coins are gone, so maybe they're still here, maybe they're not here. Changes. It gives you a headache, these things. The other thing is, do you have the ability to bring people together to solve hard problems? What made the Apollo program so special and such a transformational moment for the free world wasn't that it was an American triumph. Because we built it and paid for it, we got to put our flag on the moon, but 1 million people, including people in Japan, worked on the Apollo program for 10 years. And that's why it was a global movement. Everybody had some sort of connection to it. Everybody had some sort of feeling that this is special. So when you look at Ouroboros Laos as an example, this is not the product of input-output. 168 scientists represented more than 24 academic institutions over a 10-year research arc, engineers from more than 20 companies, and multiple independent implementations worked on solving this problem. They all got together because it's so complicated, such a hard problem. But it worked And now we can definitively say, this year it'll be in market. That's how you build great things, is your ability to bring people together with different languages and different cultures and get them working together as one group, one thought. If you can do this at scale, you never lose, because it's not the first mover to market. It's not the first idea to market. It's the best idea to market. It's your ability to take that idea and grow that idea, and mature that idea, and bring that idea in new ways with wisdom and reflection behind it. That's how you win in life. So the things that are durable are the things that respect people's time, their intellect, and their wisdom, what they bring to the table, and they're willing to listen and be able to adapt and change. There's a lot of problems with Cardano, as there are Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else. And the great motto, the unofficial motto of my country, the United States, is, we know, we're working on it. And so we know we're working on it. And every year we try to do things a little differently. We try to collaborate a little differently. We try new things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. We never violate our principles, and we never violate who we are. And we try to make sure we bring people along. You matter here in Okinawa just as much as Silicon Valley in New York, in London. I'm not doing the London tour. I'm not doing the America tour. I'm doing the Japan tour. And I'm not currently in Tokyo. We'll end it there because there's just so many people there. Okay. But I'm here in Okinawa. Vitalik Buterin's not. Anatoly from Solana is not. Brad Garlinghouse is not. Brad would rather be at the White House with Trump and all the other people and talk to them about the Clarity Act and how do we regulate cryptocurrencies and other things. And I say, well, that's not what cryptocurrency is about. It's not getting permission from a government somewhere to do something and then just give it all to the banks. Cryptocurrencies are about you, the people. You all come from different lifestyles and backgrounds. Some of you are doctors and lawyers and accountants, and some of you are fishermen, and some of you work rice fields, and some of you build cars, and some of your family may come from who knows where. But you all matter equally because you're humans. The power of the technology that we build and why we build this technology is we want to give each and every person their power back, their agency back. We want to give all of you, you can be your own bank. You can be your own finance layer. You can be your own market. You can trade with people and you get to set the rules. You get to decide what to disclose. You get to decide how the relationship is going to be. And if you so choose to bring somebody in to help you figure that out, that's your choice. So many things in your life, other people decide for you. Again and again. And the problem is they're not Japanese. They're not American. They're actually big companies these days, like the Microsofts and the Amazons and the Google. Multi-trillion-dollar companies with kings at them. You don't vote for them. You don't control them. You don't have any influence over them. Yet they decide what businesses you're allowed to be in, what devices you're allowed to use, what those experiences should be. And if you don't like the decisions they make, you can't fire them. That's not the world that I signed up for, and that's not the world you worked hard to build. That's the world we're inheriting. This movement, cryptocurrencies, its core has always been to get rid of that, reset the relationship, and put you back in charge. So every decision we make, that's the lens that we look at it through. And it doesn't matter if it takes a year, 2 years, 10 years. I was a lot younger when I first came here to Japan to get this started. You may notice the hair is falling out. It's a little bit grayer. Now the belly's bigger than it used to be. But that's okay, because it's not me anymore. There's young people here too. And when I get too old, they take over. It's life's work. It's generational, each and every step. And you're part of that too. So Midnight is very special, Internet's very special, and I always have that call to action. What do you want to do? Well, what should you do? Well, at the very least, understand the philosophy and understand why this exists. Second, if you have some spare time, join Intersect. If you're a developer, participate with Pragma and these other things, contribute to open source software. and at the very least, try to find something to solve. There's probably a problem right here in Okinawa that bothers you. Don't know what it is. You do. I don't. And you ask, how can this type of technology solve that problem? It can be a small problem. It can be a big problem. But how can we use this to solve that? Is it a problem of transparency, a problem of corruption? Is it a problem of economics? You know, we're not making enough money. We need to do something to revitalize. Is it a problem of tourism? It doesn't matter. Make it local. And if I've done my job correctly, this platform should be able to help you solve that. So every place we go, we say that. What these things are is what you make of them. We started very small, very humble, and now we're at 1.4 million people. You know what? If we keep growing, we could wake up, we'll have 10 million, and then we'll have 100 million. There are 550 million people that use cryptocurrencies. That was the population of the world in the 17th century. The entire human race uses that. You don't have to imagine how fast it can get to 1 billion or 2 billion or 3 billion. So let's get them into a place with principles. And let's get them into a system where they actually have some rights. A final thought on all of this, too, is the sustainability of it. You know, the price goes up and it goes down. And it's kind of funny, I'm so old in this space. I've been doing cryptocurrencies for 15 years. It has no effect on me at this point. When I first signed up, Bitcoin was at $1. And it was very, very, very small. I signed up for a meetup group for Bitcoin, and there was just me and another guy. I went to the coffee shop. The other person didn't show up. So I had coffee with myself, and I talked about how much I love Bitcoin. It was great. And it went from $1 up to $30. We had all this interest, and everybody cared. Oh, Bitcoin's a big thing. And then it collapsed to 4. And there was, it's dead. It's over. You know, the revolution's over. We tried. You know, it's dead. Bitcoin's done. Then it went to 250, and everybody got excited again. Oh my God, Bitcoin's this huge thing. It's amazing. The crypto space is finally here. Our time has come. And then it collapsed to 80. They said, just kidding. Bitcoin's over. Crypto's over. Then it went up to $1,200. It was Mt. Gox era. And then Mt. Gox collapsed. And they said, see, the weird French guy killed Bitcoin. Did you see him on that exercise ball? He's creepy. Yeah, he just destroyed it. The whole market's over. Everybody pack it up, go home. Went down to 250. And it stuck there for years and years and years. Then it went up $20,000. That was a great time. All these new people came to the cryptocurrency space. John McAfee came into the cryptocurrency space. Never party with him. It's bad news. He's a wild guy. That was fun. It was 2017. Then it collapsed down to 4,000. Then back up to 68,000 in 2021. And then down to 25. Then up to 120. Now it's 70. And when you go online, despite the fact that over my life of 15 years, I'm not that old, it's gone from $1 to $70,000, and the industry's gone from nothing to 550 million people, and even the U.S. government is talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody says, oh, it's over, it's dead. Oh, it's just the markets are destroyed. Crypto's gone. We just all have to go home and pack up. It's like, have you been paying attention to anything? This is the fastest growing ecosystem in human history outside of AI. And even AI started in 1948. They just pretended like they started after the Transformers paper. They've been going on for a long time, okay? So crypto, the sin of it is it grew too quickly, too fast. The values got too high too fast. And it created enormous expectations, like the second coming of a Christ. It's going to save everybody instantaneously. And when it didn't live up to those expectations, then everybody said, oh, well, it must have not been a real thing. Therefore, it's a scam, it's wrong, it's bad. So the reset has to be, why did people get so excited? Ask that fundamental question. And is there real foundations to it, real merit about it? You bring 1 million people together, you can go to the moon. Cryptocurrencies are a way to bring 1 billion people together. So imagine what the human race can do if we have the ability to collaborate at that scale, and what the value is to the human race for that. The challenge is we have to figure out how to use these new capabilities. Why should this be something that we can learn in a week? You don't become a concert pianist in a week. You don't become a doctor in a week. You don't become a great businessmen in a week. It takes decades of constant focus, experience, and collective learning, and this is a brand new technology and industry. The human race has never had persistent ledgers. I'm a fan of Mesopotamian history, and on my desk I have these cuneiform tablets that were created many thousands of years ago. Every time one of these Bronze Age empires would conquer each other, the first thing they would do is shatter all the tablets because they contain property records and all these other things. For thousands of years, we've burnt the ledgers. And this is the first time in human history that we can't. We don't know what that's going to do to society. It will take centuries for us to learn these things. And that's okay. So there's no rush. Markets go up, the markets go down. Adoption goes up, goes down. What you can't fake is integrity. And what you can't fake is genuineness and principles. Either you're welcoming and collaborative, you're friendly, and you bring people together, and you build people up, or you're here to take something from somebody and run away. This project has a legacy of 10 years of bringing people together. And it didn't matter where people came from. I've been to 75 countries. I've been through the heart of Africa, through South America, Australia. I've been all throughout Europe, all throughout Asia. I was in Mongolia with camel herders and eagle hunters in the Kazakh mountains, the Altai mountains. And then I was down in Patagonia and, these beautiful ranges down there with the cowboys and everybody in between. I don't care what language you speak, where you come from, what faith you have. We brought people together. You can't fake that. You can't buy that. You can't Silicon Valley the latest thing. It's real and it's genuine, and we earned it. So that's why we're going to be here 10 years later and 10 years after, because we care about that and we reinforce it, and that's why we came to Okinawa, because you deserve it just as much as Silicon Valley or Washington, D.C. or these other places. So in spirit of that, make a friend. We have ambassadors here. We have great organizations here. Take the time to get to learn, and there's no rush. Learn at your pace. Do the things the way you want to do it, and try to solve some local problem that's important to you. And I'll be here 10 years from now, and I'll be here in the next 10 years. I can't say I'll be as lively and youthful because this industry ages you very rapidly, so I'll probably come up with a cane and everything and be worn down. But that's okay. Somebody else will also be young, or maybe a robot will take over. Who knows? The lobsters are getting together lately. So thank you all for coming, and I know some of you usually like to get a picture, so you can just come up on stage and we'll work some sort of flow. We're going to, on that side? Okay. And so can you have Taro explain it to everybody? Okay, so we'll explain in Japanese the whole picture thing, and just please do enjoy, and thank you all for coming. Cheers.
皆さんおはようございます。ぜひチャールズと一緒に写真を撮っていただければと思いますので、一旦こちらで並んでいただいて、こちらでアシスタントの方で携帯をもらっていただいて。